Welcome to STIA 1113 Programming 1. Today I'm going to talk about control structure. So the topic that we're going to look is repetition. So repetition basically any instruction or any statement that can be repeated, and the identification of the statement that can be repeated is very important in this topic. So we're going to look at three types of repetition: while, do while, and for statement. So why do we need a repetition structure? Why do we require to use repetition? In your previous topic, you learned about selection. So selection basically allow you to allow your program to react to options. Okay, so repetition can only allow for certain conditions to be true or false, and either you're going to continue with the block of instructions if it's true. If it is false, it's going to continue its execution. So you have your if else, and nested if, and also case statement. So your program run in one direction. Okay, so in one direction, and when the selection completed, the selection basically going to terminate the program. So in repetition, it basically tackle down any problem that can be repeated. Okay, so as simple as for example here, you want to print out a number from 1 to 10. Okay, so if you want to print out number to 10, usually what we did is we just system.out.println 1, and you can continue that until 10. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and another one, 10. Okay, so this basically will allow your terminal to print out 10 numbers from 1 to 10. So you can see the code shows system.out.println print out these numbers in order. To calculate the sale prices for 10 customer, so the sales can be the same, the same operation. So for 10 customer, you need to do for every customer calculation for each customer. Solving equations that requires for certain range, the equation remain the same, but if you have range, for example n1 from 1, n2 to 10, so from 1 to 10 you need to repeat this formula, this calculation. Or for example, you want to calculate bank account. Okay, for bank account, for numbers of years. Okay, so the main idea here is that any repetition operation that need that basically perform the same operation all over again, and this cannot be done with selection. Okay, because selection can only allow you to select between one or the other, but repetition, it basically allow you to repeat the same task, and it can perform for a different person, because the tasks remain the same, but the output can be varies. So repetition structure enable an algorithm to repeat a number of steps. Okay, so this is what we call sometimes known as a looping structure, because we keep on looping the instruction. So repetition statement rely on conditional expression. So it basically uses a condition, either the condition is true or false. So as long as this condition is true, it will basically keep on in the loop and execute the statement within the loop, within the repetition body. So for example, as you remember, the display the number from 1 to 10. So normally we can just use print out the system.out.print line 10 times. But what if you need to print out 100 or thousands of numbers? So are you going to print out the whole system.out.print line for every line of code, for every line, for every numbers? Definitely not. Okay, so that is basically how repetition can be very useful in Java programming. Okay, so the identification of the repetition is that basically we can see that the repetition can be replicated in programming. So as simple as this, so the repetition of number print out number 1 is actually you add another one. Okay, you plus 1, you plus 1. So when we print a number, we add another one number. So this can be repeated as long as you can add the value 1 until the last number. Okay, so you end up with just a simple structure instead of having to print out system.out.println for a very long, for all the numbers that you require. Okay, so pseudocode, the basic structure for pseudocode can be reduced as follow. So you need to initialize the number first. Okay, initialize the number from. Okay, so here set number equal 1. So while number is less than 10, so means that you want to move from 1 to 10. You just system.out.println the number, and then you need to update the value, the number value, because this is where the statement check for the conditions. So if it's still fulfilling the condition still true, it will basically execute these two instructions here. Okay, so once the number is being added, updated, so in this case you have 10 times. So when the number reach 11, the statement no longer true, this statement no longer true, and these two output will not be executed by the program. Okay, so all you need to do, if you notice here, this is for 10. You want to print out 10, 1 to 10. But if you want to print out for 1000, all you need to do is just, or 100, all you need to do is just change the value to 100 or thousands or 10,000. Okay, so it basically continue as long as the instruction, the statement here, still true. So in flowchart, so this is, you start with this, and then the initialization of number equal 1, and this is the condition. So this this diamond structure here, basically the conditions that the program need to fulfill. As long as it is true, output number, so you just system.out.println number, and then you update the value of number, and then here it goes back and it check again number. Okay, so the number add by 1 until you get number 11. The condition are no longer true, and the program basically will quit and stop. So the second problem that we want to solve equation for a number of times from n1 to n2. Okay, so that one you can repeat. So for example, from 1 to 5, you want to execute this equation, you want to run this execution. Yeah, it can be done using this as long as n1 is less than n2, and because you want to move from the lowest part to the highest part, then you can add the value, or the other way around, you need to negate the value, you need to minus the value, minus 1, as long as the conditions can be fulfilled. Okay, so this one is your code for the n1 and for the formula here. So you get the value of n1 and n2, and then you input n1 and n2. So if n1 is more than n2, and then you output this one. So this one, it basically consists of the selection. So basically just to check if n1 is bigger than n2. So if n1 is bigger or equal than n2 means that you cannot proceed with the operation. Else, this is you continue with the operation where you set y is equal n1. So the data is going to move from y to as long as y is less than n2. Okay, so y set to n1, the first value. So if you have n1 equal 1, n2 equal 5, so means that n1 1 to 5. So as long as y is true, y is less than n2 is true, the program will execute this operation and update the value of y. Okay, so it's going to update the value of y and exit. So this is how the flowchart look like. So it consists of selection. If n1 is more than or equal n2, so just output you must set n1 and n2 less than. Okay, other than that, you proceed with the operation. Initialize the value here. Continue with the with checking the value. Is y is less than n2, and then if it is true, do this operation. So result, output the result, and update the value of y. So update the value of y will be updated and add by 1. Okay, so in Java there are 3 types of repetition. You have while, do while, and the for loop. Okay, so we're going to look at the first statement, the while loop. Okay, the while statement. So the while statement basically evaluate expression condition or conditions which must return a Boolean value. If the expression or condition is true, the statement in the while block is executed. So the basic syntax for while is while, and you have this bracket here. You have this, and then this is the expression. Check the expression if this expression is true. If it is true, execute the statements inside this while block. Else, the statement is going to quit. So it continue testing the conditions or expression and executing its block until the expression or conditions updated to false. So the flowchart start here, check the expression, true, do the statement, go back, check the expression until the expression turn to false, continue. So the basic structure for while statement. So we need to initialize value. It's very important to initialize value. So integer I equal 1. So we start from 1. So we start while I is less than 5. So as long as I less than 5 is true, it will basically print out the number. Other than that, and print out the number and update the value of I. So this is basically equivalent to, so you remember, I is equal I plus 1. So if you try that in Java program, simple. So we start with the initialize the value of I. So we use the while statement while I is less than 5. Do the statement inside, which is system.out.println, or just print. So the value of I plus, we put some spaces here, and then we update the value of I. Okay, so this is the basic while structure. While I, the content of I at this particular moment, at it first start, is equal 0. So 0 less than 5 is true. Execute this true instruction. This is the block, while block. Okay, so execute these 2 instructions. So the first instruction basically just to print out I and put some space there, and then the value of I is being updated using postfix increment value. Okay, so when you execute this program, so you get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because when the value of I is being updated, so for example I equal 1, and then I less than 5 continue true, and then I is being updated to 2, and then print back again until 3 and 4. So when I is equal 4, 4 is less than 5, it's still true, it's going to print out the value of 4. And then when the value of I move to 5, 5 is less than 5, it is not true, it is false, and the program is going to quit to this part. Okay, so you can just update the value of 5 here. Let's say we put 10. Okay, you're going to have 0 until 9. Okay, you put it like 100. You just update that value, the range from. This is from, and this is to. Means that from 0 to 100. From 0 to 100, and you need to have this. You need to update this value, or else you're going to end up with infinite loop. If you don't update I, you're going to end up with infinite loop. Okay, this is going to happen to your program. Your program is going to end up with this problem. Okay, so you need to stop the program and again use or update the value of I, because I is basically the one who keep testing the program. So it tests I is less than, I is more than. Okay, so this will basically print out from 0 until 99, because we put it less than. But if you put less than or equal, then it's going to print out from 0 until 100. Okay, because it is not inclusive if we use equal. Okay, so that for this, for while. So you can also use while to update its value to, instead of just 1, you just update to 5. So in this example, the I++, or we can just use I equal I plus 1, means that the increment only by 1. But if you want to have increment by 2, you can just update this by 2 or by 5. Okay, so if we put it by 2, you can see that the value skip 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 until the end, until 100. If you want to skip by 5, the interval is 5. So you can see 0, 5, 10, 20 up until 100. So if you want to have the interval as 10, so you're going to end up with 0, 10 up to 100. Okay, so that basically for this example. Okay, so this statement basically, the while statement basically will test the value in the expression first before execute this to instruction. And the second statement, loop statement, is the do while statement. So this is basically similar to while loop, except that it first execute the statement. So in while, it basically tests the expression first. However, in do while, what it does, okay, for do while, it basically do the statement and test the statement later. Okay, so I'm converting the previous example, the while statement, and then into do while. So sometimes in exam you're going to have this kind of questions to convert from while statement to do while statement. Okay, so it basically performs the same. However, the do statement, the do while statement, do while statement perform or execute the statement first before testing. So this is testing the expression. Okay, so do this first and then test. If the test of the statement is correct, and then loop again. Okay, so that basically how do while statement works. Okay, so it continue executing the statement until the expression condition becomes false. So the only difference is that it execute the statement first. In while statement, it tests the expression first before continue with the statement. So using this do while, it will basically always execute the instruction or the statement at least once. Okay, because it never tests the statement. Do the statement first and then check if the statement is true or false, the expression is true or false. So this is basically how does flowchart for the do while. So you start with statement, okay, execute the statement, and then test the expression. If it's true, go back, execute the statement until the expression turns to false. Okay, so basically the same. So you can just change the value. You want to have bigger value, you want to have smaller value, you want to have like 1,000. Okay, so you're going to end up with the increment of 10. You want to have increment by 100. Okay, so you're going to end up with 0, 100, 200 up until 1,000. Okay, so that basically for the do while statement. It is exactly the same. The only difference is that this statement is being executed first before it's going to test the expression. Okay, so the third loop is the for loop. Okay, for loop is being used if you like to if you know the number of loop. Okay, because the syntax here uses as follows. You have the for, and then you have these two bracket here, and divided by 3 semicolon, sorry, by 2 semicolon. So the 2 semicolon basically initiate the loop condition. Okay, we set the initial statement. It is something like while statement, where we initiate the integer I equal 1 or integer I equal 0. But in this case, the initial value of this statement put into the for loop. And then this is the test condition. So basically it's going to test if the condition is true or not. If the condition is true, execute the statement. If it is not, quit the statement. Okay, so the initial statement is executed. The loop expression condition is evaluated. Okay, so it's going to be evaluated here, and then update the value of the statement, because of course we need to update the value of I. So the for statement, the diagram for the for statement is this. Set the initial statement, do the loop. If the loop is true, execute statement and update statement. So more or less the same, only that you know the maximum value that you want to execute. So for example, the same task here, so I'm going to convert this into for loop. The same problem for integer. So we define initial value of I equals 0, and then the test conditions is I is less than 5, and then update the value of I. Okay, so that basically the basic structure, and then you just print out the value of I and put some spaces there. So when you run, it basically performs the same. So you can update the value. You want to have like 10, right? So you can have like 0.10, or you want to have like the updating value here increment by 3, I plus 3. Okay, so you can get the increment by 3, You want to put it like 100 from 0 to 100. So it's going to print out the increment of 3 by 100. Okay, or you can put like increment of by 10. Okay, so this is the increment by 10. So more or less the same output, however it is being described using different loop syntax. So we start with do, and then we move on to do, or we start with while, and then we move on to do while, and then now we have the for statement. Okay, so this is another example. So it's basically going to print out, and you can set the initial value. You don't have to put initial value as 0. You want to start the initial value from 10 to 100. So the value is going to start from 10 to 90. Okay, so you want to start from 11. Yes, you can start from 11. Okay, so it means that it start from 11 and then add by the power of 10. So you get 31, 31, 41, up to 91. Pretty simple. And you need to make sure that you put instruction within the bracket, the block, the loop block, the for loop block. If you don't have that, remember, if you, let's say if you don't use this, okay, it's going to accept only the first statement. The second statement is considered as an outside statement. Okay, so you need to put everything inside a block, the block here. Alright, so that basically for the loop. Moving on from here, we have what we call as nested loop. Even in selection, we do have nested selection. In loop, we can also have a nested loop. It means that you're going to have another loop within the main loop. Okay, so when you can have more than 2 loops, you can have 3, 5, 10. Okay, so when you nest 2 loops, the outer loop will take control of the number of complete repetition in the inner loop. While all type of loop may be nested, the most commonly used nested loop is 4 segment. Okay, so something like this. So you have 4, and then you have 4 outside, and then you have 4 inside. So the 4 outside, we're going to execute 1, and then the inner loop will execute for, let's say this is for 10 times from 0 until 9. You get 10, so it's going to repeat 10 times and then move out, repeat and then again for the second loop, and then execute inside here for 10 times and go back to until you complete the num2 equal 9. Okay, so something like this. You have the for loop here. So let me show you some basic example if you want to use nested. So let's say I want to use I want to have like basic matrix. Okay, so basic matrix, something like 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So this metric basically is 4 times 4. Okay, so you get 4 rows and you get 4 columns. So the value of this, the metric location 0 0 is 1. So you can move on to 0 2, 0 3, 0 4, and 1 0, 1 1, 1 2, 1 3. So the location of the data is in 2-dimensional array. Okay, so to implement that, we can start for integer I is equal, let's say we start from 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus. Okay, so for this, you're going to repeat the instruction for 10 times. Okay, sorry, for 5 times. Okay, so this basically will repeat for 5 times. 0 1 2 3 4. So let me put some thing here. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 print out in one line. So if you like to have multiple line, so for example here, this one is we start with 0. Okay, let's say we start with 1. We start with 1 and ended with 5. Okay, so ended with 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If we like to have what we call as a nested loop, means that we can print out for every line, for every row and column for the data. Okay, so what we need to do now is to have the another nested loop, integer j equal 1, j is less than 5, j plus plus. Okay, so this is what we call as a nested loop. I'm going to remove this first. Okay, so you can see the structure that this is the main for. From here until here, this is the main for the parent for. And then inside the parent for, you have this another for loop that is being nested into the first for statement. So here, if we print out system.out.println, what's going to happen? So it's going to print out the inside part for example here for 1, 2, 3, 4 for 1, 2, 3, 4 1, 2, 3, 4 3, 4. So 4 kali 4 24 24. Okay, so this is basically the print out of this array, but you want to make it look nice, so all you have to do is so we just print out something like this. So when you loop for the first time, this is the first time, it's going to loop for this row. So we print out 5 times. Okay, we print out this for 5 times. Okay, so for I is equal 1, true, and then for j is equal 1, j is also true. So j is also being updated value, and then print out the value of I. So it will print out 5 times. So that's why you get for every line, you're going to have this. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, because we put our instruction to print out down here, and then it's going to print out downwards. Okay, downwards 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you notice here, I plus this means that it represents the space, and then when you try to get it run, you get this output nicely tabular in your terminal. On the infinite loop, be very careful. Okay, so again, be very careful when you have your program, when you have your loop with expression not updated. So you need to keep update. You need to update it. You need to update your value, the test value. Okay, repetition can be controlled by 3 types of control. Using counter, so we learn the counter, we add value and then it tests, add value and test. Using Sentinel, so Sentinel is a special number or special value that when the value is being tested is true or false, is being tested as false, then the program terminate, or it can also test by using the Boolean structure. Okay, so counter control loop, this is what we've done before. So we use number and we increment the number by the value of interval. So either you want to add by 1 or you want to add by any value that you want to, or you want the number to be incremented, and the number will be tested here. If the number is being tested as false, it's going to quit the while statement. If it is not, it's going to continue the execution of the code, the statement. For Sentinel, this is a special, what we call as the value itself, basically that terminate the instruction. And this is quite important because when you develop later your project, you want to make sure that when user enters certain information or certain data, the program will quit. Okay, so something like this. We use scanner, we request, and this is important because we need to accept value from user. So that's why we need to use scanner. So let me try to use this. So we use scanner equal new scanner system.in. Okay, import, and then here we request, let's say we just say system.out.println, enter 1 to quit. Okay, so and then we get enter choice equal scanner dot next integer. So while, so this is where we test. Okay, while choice is not equal to, let's say here 1. Okay, so system dot out dot println the application in while loop, right? Okay, and then we just system dot out dot println application terminated. Okay, so enter 1 to quit. So if I use 2, the program is in while loop. Sorry, not this one. I need to request again. I forgot about that. Okay, so I need to request again from user. Okay, so that when we enter again the number, if I enter 5, the application is still in while loop. If I enter 3, the application is still in while loop. If I enter 2, the application is still in while loop. If I enter 1, so the application terminated. Okay, so this is what we call a Sentinel. So the Sentinel it based on certain conditions. Okay, it is important if you developing any terminal based interface. When we start requesting user, please enter your selection. If user enter 5, it will enter this another menu. If you enter 1, it will enter the menu. If user enter 0, the application will quit. It's something like your ATM machine. Okay, when you enter something, you want to withdraw your money, you need to make selection. Okay, so if you want to quit, you can just, are you sure you want to quit, yes or no? Okay, you can just press yes, and then you want to quit in from the application. So it is basically the same idea for using the Sentinel. Okay, and the last one is by using the while statement for Boolean. Okay, so you need to change you need to be able to change this what do you call it, the Boolean structure. Okay, so while choice is less than 4, sorry, while this is false, and then you have another statement, because you need to be able to change this to true or false. If it is false, it will continue running, but if you set it to true somewhere within the block, with the while block here, you are able to change the value to true, and then the program basically will quit. Okay, and finally, this is some exercise for you. You can look into this for your exercise and determine the answer. Okay, so for that,